Hello fans, bands, and everyone else. We are here with DiViNCi, who has worked with Lauryn Hill and Soliloquists of Sound. What were the first series of events in your career where you realized, holy cow, like I could be doing what I love for a living?
There wasn't really like a particular series of events as much as it was just when I first got introduced into music, I was fascinated by it. And being fascinated by it, I wanted to do that. I wanted to create the same fascination for others as it had created for me. It was very inspiring.
What was that transition period where you went from having a day job to, you want all of your income to come in from your music?
I always knew that the job was a tool. You use a tool to work your craft. I got my first job to pay for music gear, but the last thing I was doing was selling cars. And Swam and I were starting up these meetings for the community and being activists, basically.
Yeah.
So that coincided with the same day one of the same days that I worked. And I said to them, hey, I need to switch my days. Well, you're part-time, you can't switch your days. You got to work the weekends. And I was like, well, okay, then I'll quit. And that was just as simple as that.
So what was it like making the transition from being a producer to Soliloquists of Sound and going on tour with them, and then switching to a name like Lauryn Hill, which you think is legendary?
The coolest thing about it was when I met her, I found out she was so much like the community that I was already surrounded by. And which is really awesome, because when you find out that someone you look up to is even more down to earth and even more revolutionary and even more intelligent and even more inspiring and creative than you could imagine, which is usually the other way around.
Yeah.
Usually give a little too much credit, but even more so than the imaginary credit you've already given them. That was like wow, this is cool.
What's the number one mistake you see most producers making when you're listening to music?
The number one mistake I see producers making is being afraid to make mistakes. Like, I see a lot of producers come up to me and they'll be like, what do I got to do? What's the tricks? And I didn't have that. I grew up in a small town called Wilmelsdorf in Pennsylvania. It's like this, it's this big. It's really, really small. There wasn't a YouTube to go on and find out things. You had to read articles and that type of thing. And all I had was my imagination to guide me into a direction. Oh, I think they made stuff this way. I'll try it. That made me more creative, and that made me try things that they probably never even thought of. That's the way that you'll learn how to make music better. Just make music. What
Advice would you have to give to any really aspiring artist who's like, I really want to do this and I want to do it for a living? What advice would you give them when they're sitting at home on their computers or with their guitar?
One of the things that can serve you the best is persistence. And you can only persevere and endure a continued day-to-day, like pushing if you're healthy.
Yeah.
And I mean spiritually, physically, and all other forms.
So take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself.
Before you take care of the music, pretty much.
Take care of yourself, and the music will be taken care of. Because if you love making music and you take care of yourself, you'll be clear enough to feed that love.
Well, that was a lot of insightful things you had to say, and I really appreciate you meeting with us today.